26-year-old Sarah just got promoted to team lead. She's brilliant, hungry, and terrified. Why? Because tomorrow she has to tell Michael, who's been with the company for 32 years, that his approach is not working anymore. Sound familiar? Here's the thing nobody's talking about. We are living through the most dramatic workplace shift in human history. For the first time ever, 6 generations are working side by side. And if you're a young leader managing people who are older than you, you're standing at the ground zero of the biggest leadership challenge of all time. But here's the plot twist, and this is a research from MIT and Harvard Business School. Leaders who crack the multi-generational code don't just survive. They build the highest performing, most innovative teams in their industries. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you the exact 5-strategy framework that elite leaders use to turn generational chaos into competitive advantage. And if you're a Gen Z or Millennial leader managing Boomers or Gen X, stick around because I'm going to show you how to earn respect, build trust, and lead with authority without faking who you are. Let's dive in. But first, we need to understand what we are actually dealing with. And no, I'm not going to bore you with stereotypes. I'm going to show you the neuroscience. Here's what Harvard researchers discovered. Your brain's neural pathways are literally shaped by the technology and events you experience between ages 10 and 25. This is called the critical period of social development. It's not opinion, it's biology. Let me show you what this means. Baby boomers born 1946 to 1964. Their brains were wired during the civil rights movement, the moon landing, and the rise of television. Key neural pathway is hard work and loyalty equals success. They watched their parents work one job for 40 years and retire with a pension. That's a cognitive framework burned into their brain structure. 2 is Gen X, born 1965 to 1980. Latchkey kids. Their parents divorced at record rates. They came home to empty houses and learned independence. Key neural pathway is don't trust intuitions, trust yourself. It's not attitude, it's adaptation. 3. Millennials, born 1981 to 1996. They grew up being told they were special, then graduated into the worst recession in 80 years with crushing student debt. Key neural pathway is seek purpose and collaboration to survive uncertainty. And finally, Gen Z, born 1997 to 2012. The first true digital natives. They grew up watching climate disasters on TikTok and experiencing a global pandemic during their formative years. Key neural pathway is authenticity and mental health aren't luxuries, they are survival needs. Now here's the fascinating part. Teams with high generational diversity outperform homogeneous teams by 35%, but only when they have what researchers call generational intelligence. Without it, performance drops by 23%. So the question isn't whether you should manage different generations differently. The question is, how do you bridge these fundamentally different neuronal frameworks? And that's exactly what we are about to unpack. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is a 28-year-old engineer manager. 6 months ago, he sent an important project update via Slack. His 55-year-old senior engineer, Patricia, never responded. Marcus assumed she didn't care. Patricia assumed Marcus didn't respect her enough to have a real conversation. The project nearly derailed. Here's what neuroscience tells us. According to research from UCLA's Brain Mapping Center, people's preferred communication styles are directly linked to when their brains develop language processing habits. Boomers' brains developed in an era of phone calls and face-to-face meetings. When you only send them texts or slacks, their brain literally interpret as less important. Gen Z's brains developed with texting and DMs. A phone call can actually trigger their stress response because it feels invasive. Neither is wrong, they are just different operating systems. So here's your first actionable strategy, the communication matrix. Within your first month as a leader, or starting this week, sit down with each team member individually and ask 3 questions. How do you prefer to receive urgent information? How do you prefer to receive routine updates? And what makes you feel heard and valued in communication? Then, and this is critical, document it. Create a shared team guide. But young leader to young leader, let me give you the insider move. When you're managing someone older than you, over-communicate important things in their preferred style, even if it's not yours. Want to earn instant respect from a Boomer or Gen X employee? Pick up the phone, schedule face-to-face, show that you value their time enough to communicate the way their brain processes respect. You'll spend 10 extra minutes, you will gain months of trust. And that's not being fake, that's being strategic. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A 29-year-old leader, let's call him James, was pulling his hair out. He'd introduced Feedback Fridays, where the team could share wins and get real-time recognition. His Gen Z and Millennial team members loved it. His Gen X and Boomer employees stopped showing up. James thought they didn't care about gross reality. They felt patronized. Here's the science. Dr. David Rock's model, based on neuroscience research, shows that our brains respond to 5 core social needs: status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. But here's the kicker. Different generations rank these needs in completely different orders. Let me break this down. Gen Z and Millennials, high need for relatedness and fairness. They want continuous feedback because their brains were wired in an era of instant likes and comments. Silence feels like failure. Gen X, high need for autonomy and certainty. Tell them the goal, give them resources, get out of their way. Weekly check-ins can feel like micromanagement. Boomers, high need for status and achievement. They want recognition, but it has to be meaningful, not participation trophies. So here's your strategy: personalized motivation mapping. In your one-on-ones, ask, when you felt most valued in your career, what was happening? Listen for patterns. Then deliver motivation accordingly. For your Gen Z team member, weekly check-ins focus on impact and purpose, emphasize mental health support. For your Millennial, growth opportunities, collaborative wins, connection to mission. For your Gen X, clear goals, autonomy, concrete results. While for your Boomers, formal recognition, legacy projects, expertise, acknowledgement. Real example. I had a client who was about to lose her top Boomer engineer. She was giving him the same shout outs in Slack that gave everyone. I told her, ask him to mentor the junior engineers, give him a title, senior technical advisor, make it official. And she did. He stayed 3 more years and trained the next generation. Cost? 0. Impact? Irreplaceable. Here's the truth bomb. You cannot motivate everyone the same way you expect different results. It's not diversity, that's denial. And now let me tell you about the most powerful leadership move I've ever seen. 27-year-old Emma was managing a team of 12, including 2 employees in their 50s. She was terrified of seeming incompetent. So she tried to know everything, answer everything, be everything, but she was drowning. Then she did something radical. She admitted what she didn't know. She walked up to Robert, her 56-year-old team member, and said, I know the new software inside out, but you have 30 years of client relationships I could never replicate. What if we teach each other? That conversation changed everything. Here's the research. A study from Harvard Business Review found that reverse mentoring programs increase employee engagement by 41%, boost innovation by 37%, and improve retention of experienced workers by 28%. But here's the key. It only works when both sides perceive mutual values. Your older employees have pattern recognition. You don't have. They've seen economic crashes, industry disruptions, leadership failures. That's not outdated. That's an institutional wisdom. You have digital fluency, fresh perspectives, and adaptive speed they need. Here's your strategy, the Mutual Mentorship Protocol. Step number 1, identify skill gaps, yours and theirs. Be honest. Maybe you need help to navigate office politics. Maybe they need help with AI tools. Step 2, propose a formal exchange. Use that word, exchange. Not I'll help you, but let's help each other. And step number 3, schedule it. 30 minutes twice a month, alternate topics. Now, young leaders, let me address the elephant. But won't this make me look weak? No. Research from Brené Brown's team found that leaders who demonstrate strategic vulnerability, admitting specific knowledge gaps while maintaining overall competence, are rated 76% more trustworthy. Would you rather work for a 27-year-old who pretends to know everything, or one who is confident enough to learn? And one more thing, when your older employee teaches you something, acknowledge it publicly. Roper's insight saved us 2 weeks. This is exactly why experience matters. You just gave them status. They just gave you loyalty, and that's leadership. Here's where most young leaders make a fatal mistake. They try to be the cool boss. Unlimited PTO, work from anywhere, no rules. 6 months later, the team is in chaos, resentment in building, and productivity is tanked. Here's what research from Stanford's project Oxygen discovered. The best teams don't have no structure, they have co-created structure. Listen carefully. Different generations have radically different relationships with work structures. Boomers were raised in hierarchical organizations. Clear chains of command feel safe to them. Many prefer in-office work because it provides social structure and separation. Gen X craves autonomy but values efficiency. They don't care where or when work happens, only that it gets done. Gen Z needs flexibility for mental health but actually craves more structure and mentorship than millennials. They want their managers to check in regularly more than any other generation. The solution isn't one size fits all, it's framework flexibility. And here is the protocol. Step 1, define non-negotiables. What absolutely must happen for the team to succeed? Maybe it's we must respond to clients within 24 hours, or we need 3 hours to overlap time each day. Step number 2, create your team character together. In a meeting, ask them, within these non-negotiables, how do we want to work? Let the team design. Core hours versus flexible hours, in-office versus remote preferences, communication response times, meeting rooms. And step 3, focus on outcomes, not activity. Set clear deliverables, then let people choose their path. And here's another example. A 26-year-old manager I worked with had a boomer who wanted to come in every day and a Gen Z who wanted full remote. And instead of forcing both into the same model, he said, here's what success looks like. Here's how we will measure it. You each choose how to get there. Productivity up 40% in only 3 months. But here's the critical part for young leaders. You have to address the fairness concern head on. In your team meeting, say, different working style isn't about favorites, it's about equity. Equity means giving people what they need to succeed, not giving everyone the exact same thing. And then prove it with consistent outcomes-based evaluation. Structure without rigidity, that's the balance. Now let me share the most important strategy of all. This is the one that separates good leaders from truly exceptional ones. I call it contextual empathy, and it's rooted in powerful neuroscience. Dr. Zaki at Stanford's Social Neuroscience Lab found that empathy isn't just feeling, it's understanding the context that shaped someone's worldview. And when leaders practice contextual empathy, team cohesion increases by up to 60%. Your 58-year-old employee who insists on printing everything. She experiencing the first major computer crashes in the workplace. She watched people lose everything. Her brain learned physical backup equals safety. Your Gen X employee who seems cynical about company initiatives. He watched corporations downsize his parents' entire generation and break promises. His brain learned protect yourself because institutions won't. Your Gen Z employee who needs mental health days. She grew up with school shootings, a pandemic, climate anxiety, and algorithmic social comparisons. Her brain learned mental health isn't weakness, it's survival. None of this is excuse making, it's understanding. And here's your strategy, the context conversation. Once a quarter, learn your team members' professional origin stories. Ask, what was your first job like? What's the biggest change you've seen in the workplace? And what's one thing you worry younger or older colleagues don't understand? Then, and this is the magic, share your context too. I grew up never knowing if my generation would own homes or retire. That's why I'm driven by building something stable. When you share context, you're not making excuses, you're building bridges. A brilliant move for young leaders managing older employees publicly value their experience while framing your use as an asset. Try. I know I haven't been through an economic recession in my career yet. That's why I'm grateful Sarah's has. She's seen pattern I haven't. And I'm bringing fresh eyes to problems we might have gotten to choose to. Together we are covering all angles. You just reframe generational difference from threat to competitive advantage. Research from McNiskey found that teams with high contextual awareness were 3.5 times more likely to outperform their peers. Here's the truth. Every generation thinks they invented hard work, and the one after them is lazy. It's never been true. What's true is every generation is adapting to radically different circumstances with the tools they have. Your job as a leader is not to judge, it's to integrate. But here's what nobody talks about. For all our differences, there's something remarkable in the research. Studies across 50 years of workplace data show something shocking. The things that make people feel valued at work haven't changed. Across every generation, people want to be respected as individuals, to do work that matters, to grow and develop, and to be treated fairly, to belong to something bigger than themselves. The expression of these needs might look different, but the core needs are identical. Your Boomer employee and your Gen Z employee both want meaningful work. They just define meaningful differently. One sees meaningful is legacy and impact over time. The other sees meaning in immediate social good and alignment with values. Your Gen X employee and your Millennial employee both want recognition. They just want it delivered differently. One wants autonomy to prove themselves, and the other wants collaboration and feedback. Here's the leadership shift. Stop managing generations. Start leading humans who were shaped by different contexts, but share fundamental needs. The question is not how do I deal with difficult generations? The question is how do I create an environment where different expressions of universal needs can be all met? That's not harder, that's actually simpler. And if you're a young leader feeling imposter syndrome about managing people twice your age, here's your permission. You are not supposed to have all the answers. You're supposed to create the space where all the answers in the room can emerge. That's not weakness, and that's wisdom. All right, let's make this real. You've gotten the frameworks. Now here's your homework. And I mean actual homework you can start today. So this week, day 1, create your communication matrix. Schedule 15 minutes conversation with each team member. Ask the 3 questions I gave you. Document the answers. Day 2, start practicing contextual empathy. Pick one person of your team who frustrates you. Research what was happening in the world when they were 15 to 25 years old. Just understand. Day 3, propose one reverse mentorship exchange. Be specific. I'll teach you specific skill while you teach me a specific skill. Week 2, call a team meeting. Co-create your team charter. Make it safe to disagree. Document the non-negotiable and the flexibilities. Week 3, implement personalized motivations. Deliver recognition. 2-3 people in 3 different styles and notice what changes. And here's what's going to happen. You will mess up. You will accidentally offend someone. You will overcorrect and confuse people. But that's not failure, that's data. One more thing, the fact that you're watching this video tells me you care about getting this right. That alone puts you ahead of 80% of leaders. Most people are not trying. You are, and that matters. Here's what I know to be true. The future doesn't belong to leaders who can manage generations. It belongs to leaders who can build bridges between them. And that leader, that can be you. So here's my challenge. Pick one strategy from the video, just one. Implement it this week, then come back and drop a comment telling me what happened, what worked, what didn't, what surprised you. Because here is the secret. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions. Every single person watching this, regardless of your age, has something valuable to teach and something important to learn. If this video helped you, hit the subscribe button and share it with someone who needs it. Now go out there and lead like bridge builder you are. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.